What's the biggest misconception of you, Aves? Like, I never got to play with you. I know a lot of people that are friends with you that love you. What's the biggest misconception about
I
you?
think that I was a dirty player on the ice, which I'll tell you, like that's obviously the eye is in the beholder, but I never got suspended for an on ice infraction. Like I never got suspended for hitting a guy from behind or uh, running a guy, blindsiding a guy. Like I was dirty, but I was almost dirty to your face. Like if I came up into a pile, uh, you're gonna feel my stick on the back of your shins, or I'm gonna two hand you in the back of the legs. But
Yes.
I'm standing in front of you the moment after I do it. I'm not doing it in kind of like you always knew where the chaos was coming from. I I'm I wasn't a cheap shot artist in that like that hit the other night with Richie on Boston.
Yes.
Like I didn't hit guys like that. I would time it better. I would hit guys. I didn't because also I always knew I had a short leash on the ice, right? Like anything that I did, everyone was trying to catch me. The refs, the other team. So, I think that's a big misconception that I was a dirty player. And maybe I'm living in a delusional world, but I think the stats show I wasn't a dirty player. I was a mean and nasty, and like I took some liberties, but I wasn't like a dirty player. I get weirded out when I hear that or I see a hit like Richie the other night. I mean, that hit was like, man, you can't hit guys like that. Hit him in the
Yeah.
hit him head on. So yeah, that was one of them. I think also that I was a bad teammate. Like I I think there were things that I did that uh, I could have been a nicer teammate to some of my teammates, but I would be the first guy into a pile to protect anyone on my team. I would take a bullet for any of my teammates. So that's kind of how I measure like what's the real heart of a guy being a good teammate. Will he go to war with his brothers? Yeah, I think I was good, and you could always count on me in that department. But did I say some things to guys over the years where I was just young and like I'm a shit talker? That's what I do. I talk shit always. I always have been. So does that make you a bad teammate? I don't think so.
Well, and also, Aves, let's touch on this and be real. You know that in the one thing that I think you and I both share is that when you're opinionated and you are your own person and you have different views, you dress a certain way, you talk a certain way, you play a certain way,
A lot
you
of
know,
jealousy.
well, and there's culture to hockey as well, right? And
Yeah.
maybe that culture's changed. I think it's more accepted now for guys to feel comfortable in their own skin, but listen, there was a little bit of that going on as well. People are jealous, so it is what it is. Let's talk about the Avery rule.
Yeah. Yeah.
Looking back, do you have any regrets about how you played then? I loved it.
No, so every time that we played Marty that year, he's so smart, like the
Yeah.
guy he knows his space, right? Like there's no one of the best with his area. Um, every time I go to the front of the net, he'd tap me in the back of the legs. He'd take his stick and he'd push the back of my knees. And that's like the most vulnerable spot for a hockey player. The moment you do that, you go like ass over tea kettle. So I would fall into Marty. Marty would, he'd sell it and I'd get a penalty. So this happened like 5 or 6 times over the course of the season. Okay, now we're in the playoffs. It's a 5-on-3. I'm on the ice for the power play. I got Yager, Shanahan, Drury, Gomez. Yager and Shanahan are at the tops of the circles, off wing one timers, and I'm going to the front of the net. And I'm thinking to myself, Sean, you take a penalty, I'll kill you. It's like, the DiCaprio scene when he goes
Yes.
in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he goes in and he screams at himself for forgetting his lines. That was like me in my head. Like, if you take a penalty, I'll kill you. I'll kill you, Sean, like me, third person. So I go to the front of the net and I said, I'm not going to turn around because if he pokes my legs and I fall into him, well, then you're going to have to do something to yourself, Sean. You don't want to do that. So I went to him and I looked him dead in the eyes And there was a moment where I was like, okay, I'm staring at Marty and the play's behind me. And then he kind of just like turned his head and it just hit me. I said, okay, I'm going to do this. When he goes this way, I'm going to go that way with my hand and I'm going to screen him that way. And two things in my head. I was thinking, please don't hit me in the back of the spine with one of your one timers, Shanahan or Yager. Cause like, I don't know what happens. Your spine, you never think about getting hit with a shot in your spine. And the other thing, I had Drury yelling in the corner and Koharski yelling in the other corner. You know, he's like, Drew's like, he's going to give you a penalty. He's going to give you a penalty. He's yelling at me, yelling at you. And I'm like, Drew, I can hear him. He's right here. I know. And we had this weird slow motion conversation while everything's going on. And, you know, then like 20 seconds later, Gomez gets the puck down low and he passes to me and I score. And it was just kind of one of those insane New York Ranger Madison Square Garden moments. And the best part was when I went home to bed and I woke up in the morning, they had already changed the rule, which, you know, to this day is wildly illegal. Like, I believe you can only change rules in the summer at the Board of Governors meetings. I think that, I don't know. I don't know. I've never asked anyone, but they just changed the rule overnight.
You are something else.
And they called the rule the Avery rule, which is like, I don't know.
Oh man, you had
But
12. You had a 12-year career in the NHL, scoring 90 goals, 247 points, and 1,533 penalty minutes in just 580 games. You led the league in penalty minutes twice during the 2003-04 and 2005-06 seasons. Looking back, do you think you would have done anything differently, or did it all go the way it was supposed to, Sean?
I mean, I think everything always goes the way it's supposed to. But I think, what could I have told myself? Play more, focus on playing more. Yeah, possibly, but also it was a different league then, and you had to really own your space. And to find your space, you had to. It's not like today's game. Like today's game, if I was playing in today's game, it'd be heaven on earth because I could skate, I could pass, I could shoot, and I could skate. So you don't, as a small guy, you don't have to. When I came into the league in 2002, I was one of the smallest guys in the league. It was a big league. Chris Pronger, Darian Hatcher,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, Hal Gill, guys on defense that were, every team had a Zdeno Chara. And it was just a different time. And like, yeah, I would have definitely done something, a few things different. That's for sure. But I also think you can't live with regrets. You just have to keep moving forward and get it done.
Oh, 100%. Abe's, what was the highlight of your career?
I think my first year watching, you know, that 2002 Red Wing team and just when I think about that whole season and you know that team, how good that team was, watching some of probably maybe one of the greatest NHL teams ever in the history of the league play together. Watching Steve Yzerman win a cup on one leg, uh, Hasek, Scotty Bowman, like that collectively. Individual moments to me are, you know, I don't know what they are. They're things, they're moments. But
Yes.
that was like a life lesson. You know, that was like a year in my life that shaped who I became or who I aspired to be. You know, some of those guys were legends, legendary men.